There is no red, white, or blue in this country. The only color that matters is green, because we live in the United Corporations of America. Salutations on this Liberation Week. Jordan Chariton, live, Status Coup, with the yellow vest guys gave that to me at the fake DNC. Remember the shadow DNC in 2020? Yeah.
Yes.
So, boy, quite a lot going on, Steve. Glad to have you on today. We were going to dig into more of Trump's tariff insanity, but perhaps unsurprisingly, he has moonwalked faster than Michael Jackson and now reversing the worst of the tariffs. Quite a lot of them are still in place. We'll get to that, but we'll get to his reversal, which his sycophants are now trying to spin as art of the deal. And we'll go a little deeper into are tariffs a good thing? What can we do to bring American manufacturing back beyond tariffs? Is that even possible? Maybe we should talk about China, which Trump wants to make the boogeyman, but maybe we just need to give you the reality. They've just kicked our ass because they're actually intelligent and don't practice austerity, while that's all we have practiced. We're also going to have Ashley come on, our new reporter, who's, God, I mean, she's still finding where the bathroom is. She's only here a week, and she's already getting roughed up by cops the other day at that pro-Palestine protest, doing great videos. So she's going to come on, give us the full rundown of, unfortunately, how many layoffs we've had just in this one Liberation Week. Remember, this Liberation Day was only 7 days ago. So as Trump and whatever this was, his little weak stunt, there's real damage that has already been done. So Ashley's going to join us. And then I'm going to get into Gretchen Whitmer has now unofficially launched her 2028 campaign. So as the, resistance, goes out there to protest Teslas and Trump and Musk, I'm not here to stand for Gretchen Whitmer. We're going to give you the truth, the skinny, on why she should be nowhere near the White House, because she is not your friend if you care about workers or vulnerable people. And she has screwed many, many communities in Michigan, namely Flint, Michigan, Kalamazoo, Michigan, among others. But Steve, before we get to any of this, and smash the like button, folks, share this live stream, I have to make a public service announcement. And you, I feel, are on board with this. If you are a MAGA cultist who cannot tolerate anything but your pre-existing views fed to you on a right-wing silver platter, I don't want to hear your unsubscribe. Be gone. Fuck off. And if you are a vote blue no matter who Dem sycophant who believes now's not the time, Jordan, I understand they're not perfect, but don't criticize the Democrats right now. All eyes on Trump. Fuck off. Be gone. But I have a visual interpretation of that. Colin, if you will. So we're going to spruce that up a bit because I just asked him for it 45 minutes ago. So we're going to make that a little longer, add a little more snowflakes, maybe a snowman. But Steve, I can't take it anymore. I can't take it. This sickening mentality on the internet that if you don't give me what I already believe 100% of the time, unsubscribe, then fuck off and unsubscribe, which is not good of me to say. It's not good business. We probably will get people unsubscribing because you're not being nice, Jordan. But when did political tribalism become this fucking teenage stupidity mentality? Oh my God. The MAGA people, you point out literally the facts. All these layoffs, they're unsubscribe. The Dem resistance. Ashley did a great video pointing out, hey, Cory Booker, great. You gave a 25-hour speech. Kudos. But here's like 25 years of corruption. Unsubscribe. Then don't watch. And don't then tell me unsubscribe. You are a snowflake. You have pea brains, if that is your mentality. If you're a liberal, if you're a right wing, if you just want to watch and have a feedback loop of your pre-existing views and beliefs fed back to you 100% of the time, go watch Fox News, go watch MSNBC, because this is not a safe space. I am here to tell you they are all corrupt. Obviously, there's levels. I think what Trump is doing right now is worse than what Biden was doing, but Biden was also funding a blank check to a genocide, which is terrible too. You can unsubscribe because I said that? So go away. I don't want you here, and I don't care if you unsubscribe. We want people who want to be intellectually stimulated but also challenged. We want people here that have a little room for disagreement. Okay. Anything to add there, Steve?
Man, I tell you what, you just felt what it's like to be an MMTer for 10 years, man. People, you didn't say it. No, Woody, this guy open a textbook. How do you not know? And that's like, good God.
I just can't. Unsubscribe. Horrible. Okay. So basically, you want to join a cult, either a right-wing intellectual cult or a left-wing cult, a liberal cult. I mean, my God, I have to respond to these people. So you're going to unsubscribe to one of the only independent outlets that is consistently on the ground because we gave you facts about Cory Booker's record, or we gave you facts that Donald Trump is laying off thousands of people. Bye-bye, Tony Clifton. I unsubscribed a year ago. Bye-bye, Tony. Don't care. All right. Now, Trump has reversed his tariffs, at least quite a lot of them. Let's give you one of his sycophants Twitter posts. This is Howard Lutnick, the billionaire commerce secretary, who said his 94-year-old mother-in-law wouldn't care if Social Security checks were delayed. I'm pretty sure she lives in his mansion, but okay. Scott Besson and I sat with the president while he wrote one of the most extraordinary truth posts of his presidency. Oh, boy. The world is ready to work with President Trump to fix global trade, and China has chosen the opposite direction. And this is the Trumpster. Based on the lack of respect that China has shown to the world's markets, I am hereby raising the tariff charge to China by the U.S. to 125%, effective immediately. At some point, hopefully in the near future, China will realize that the days of ripping off the U.S. and other countries is no longer sustainable or acceptable. Conversely, and based on the fact that more than 75 countries have called representatives of the U.S., i.e. kissed my ring, including the Department of Commerce, Treasury, USTR, negotiate a solution to the subjects being discussed relative to trade barriers, tariffs, currency manipulation, and non-monetary tariffs, and that these countries have not, at my strong suggestion, retaliated in any way, shape, or form against the U.S., I've authorized a 90-day pause and a substantially lower reciprocal tariff during this period of 10%, also effective immediately. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I love how he signs off like he's like an airline attendant. So I will give you the skinny of what we think this means. This is from Shelby Talcott of Semaphore. Tariffs on China increasing to 125%, which is just comical at this point. 90-day pause on reciprocal tariffs amid negotiations. He said he has 75 bilateral negotiations, which I'm not sure I believe. Tariff level brought down to a universal 10%. Canada and Mexico are part of that 10%. The pause won't impact sectoral tariffs, which are coming soon, pharma, lumber, etc. I have Ashley looking into the pharma tariffs, but I'm here to say I think there is a better chance of Steve or I developing a rock hard six-pack by Thanksgiving than tariffs on big pharma actually going in. But we'll get to that later. As far as I know, from what I could see, the auto tariffs of 25% are still in place. And the 10% tariffs across the board are still in place. And I don't know, Steve. I mean, there's more to show you here, but I don't actually think China is that affected because China doesn't rely on us as much as we rely on China, because as we've talked about, China has essentially, instead of austerity and, enriching the wealthy, they've put massive government investment for the last 20 years into rail, research and development, developing their own supply lines, industrial
Supply
policy.
chains, yep.
So you could put a 2,000% tariff on, and they'll just find other countries to trade with and lean on their own industry. Do I have that wrong?
No, in fact, I'll tell you this. This is funny because China understands the way their currency works better than the U.S. does. I mean, most people in the audience haven't got a clue, but Chinese people understand the way their country operates. They're smart. They aren't ideologically held to some weird thoughts about the government spending. Oh, they're printing money. They don't say. Chinese people never say anything worthless, like saying they're printing all this money. They don't do it. And that's why they're kicking our ass, because they aren't stupid like that. So they're constantly, they say, oh, we got this problem. China says, no problem. We'll do something to make it right. And literally, if there's an industry going bad or something like that, the government will step in. They'll help. They'll make sure it doesn't tank. They'll do whatever it takes, but they do not allow billionaires to run their country. So there's a whole totally different mindset over there that is so much closer to what I'd want than what we have. Is not even funny. So, at the end of the day, what we're watching right now is an embarrassing ideological warfare. Ideological, right? It's all ideological. While China says, we're going to do what works. We have one ideology, and that is let's serve our people. Let's create cooperative arrangements with all of our partners. And they have not tried to bomb us. They have not tried to do any kind of war. They have literally sitting there watching Trump going, what are you doing, you fucking moron? What do you do? You're killing the goose that, that lays the golden egg. What the hell are you doing? And you know what? Because people, and this is real quickly, these tariffs things, the concept, the idea of blocking partners out there, okay? Like today is the day we put tariffs up, boom. Everything you do in this world, especially at a macro level, you have got to plan out. You don't just suddenly do some stupid shit. You've got to have the internal engine moving to fix the things going. And you know what? The federal government itself literally could say, we are creating automobiles. We're going to create new government-owned automobiles. It's been done all around the world. We could do it here. And the government would say they must be manufactured here. They must be this. They must be that. And boom, you have a public option now for a federal government-led development of an automobile. You could do this for steel manufacturing. The government could say, hey, we are going to create a public steel manufacturer. We could do any of these things, but ideology gets in the way. Oh no, that would be socialism. Oh no, right? So what does China do? China says, I don't know what you want to call it, because they're a capitalist country, but they have socialist Chinese properties that make them very different. And so ultimately they're like, ideology, what the fuck does that mean? If is it going to help us? Let's do it. So stupid. Our country sucks so bad because of these kinds of people. I
want to read this tweet by Shoykot Chakrabarti. He was AOC's initial chief of staff. He left AOC ages ago. I think he's running now against Pelosi and her walker in San Francisco, whatever district she represents. I thought it was this is spot on. He said, the reason it's cheaper to build stuff in China is not low wages. It's because they've spent decades investing to create incredibly efficient and highly automated factories. China has more industrial robots per worker than America now. If we are expecting manufacturing to move to America, we need an actual plan to build that kind of high-wage manufacturing here. The lesson from China and other countries is investing in that kind of manufacturing can actually bring up wages and the quality of life for workers as well. Chart of industrial workers per 10,000 workers. So he shows there China is fairly high up there, where United States is below China. Yes, they have. And, in fairness, the way the United States probably wants to operate robotics is having the robots do everything. But in China, they don't just hire the robots and replace all the workers. They have, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, they have humans in most cases operating the robots.
Yeah, I mean, just think about this. The idea of technology and AI and all this robotic stuff was supposed to automation was supposed to lower the work week for the US worker. It was supposed to make life better for all. We were all supposed to share in this prosperity, which clearly isn't happening. And sadly, there are just disgraceful, awful people that will stand by and say, that's okay. What you made bad decisions. You shouldn't have gotten an MBA. You should have gotten some basket weaving. They'll flip it around. The logic is not there. But ultimately, in China, they are literally taking care of their people. That is 100% the way it goes. Are they perfect? No. Is any country perfect? No. Do they have bad actors here or there? Sure. Yeah. Is everything cozy? No. But at the end of the day, look what the hell you're living in here in the United States, and you're defending you're defending this shit. And it's like, how can you do that? Don't you feel like gross defending
And
this
I want to
crap? And ultimately, China doesn't
I want to
care.
point out. I want to
They
point
just
out
do it.
again, and sorry to say, Colin, we have to do it again. Snowflake alert. By the way, my idea was just to rain snow over us, but apparently you can't do that in Restream. But MAGA, putting aside whether you're pro-tariff or anti-tariff, and I'm actually pro-smart targeted tariffs that actually could accomplish something, not across the board tariff diarrhea like this ridiculous display. But apparently the economists that they use to come up with these cockamamie percentages. So like, hey, Taiwan has a 90% tariff on us or whatever bullshit they came up with. They interpreted his study wrong. And he came out saying, yeah, thanks for like borrowing from me, but you got it wrong. This from the New York Post. Economist Brent Neiman shocked to learn Trump administration used his formula to justify tariffs. Got it wrong. A top economist was shocked to learn the Trump administration used his research to justify its hefty tariffs, insisting the White House got his formula, quote, very wrong and grossly miscalculated the levies for each country. Brent Neiman, University of Chicago professor, wrote in a New York Times op-ed that Trump's sweeping tariff regime should have been roughly 4 times less if his study had been followed correctly. Well, I got to be consistent, Steve, because you and I both criticize Biden. We both criticize MSNBC and the propagandists for pushing nonstop. Well, Biden's the guy who could get things done. Biden's the guy. He's the pragmatic choice. He's a return to normalcy. He's been in Washington forever, so he knows how the levers work. He couldn't get anything done. Well, he could get like pro-Wall Street crumbs for the workers shit done. So I have to say the same thing about Trump. You come up with these absurd, like apparently his people actually did the due diligence to come up with like legitimate enough percentages that would be reasonable. And he just said, nah, we're using these numbers, which were all just made out of thin air, as this economist just pointed out. The other thing is, Colin, if we could play the first video, apparently Trump didn't tell his trade representative that they were reversing the tariffs. So the trade representative is literally in a hearing in Congress defending this tariff insanity. I guess Trump doesn't communicate with this is not a low-level person. This is the go-to person for trade. So you got the Treasury Secretary, the Commerce Secretary, the Trade Representative. It's very clear to me he's learning about it for the first time during this hearing today. Colin, let's show that.
Include that in your opening statement. Why didn't you reference that as part of your testimony?
Well, I don't disclose my conversations with the president, sir.
These were specific questions we asked you all along. What's the strategy? These are real consequences for the American people and small businesses. I had a group of small businesses in my office earlier today talking about the impacts of these tariffs on aluminum and steel. This is amateur hour, and it needs to stop. What does this even mean for your negotiating strategy? How are you in charge of negotiation if the president is tweeting about this from wherever the hell he is?
The president was elected, and he runs the trade policy, and I advise him and execute his trade policy.
Who executes the trade policy?
I execute the trade policy.
Did you know that this was happening?
We have been discussing all kinds of
And there's another
options.
member of the cabinet, Bessent, who just canceled coming to the Hill to avoid talking about the market because it's in turmoil. This in just days because there was no strategy.
So, Steve,
there was no
not
plan.
to get too in the weeds, it seems to me there had been some movement on bonds and long-term bonds, which you know a lot more than I, but let's just say Wall Street was pissed. And, you know, Trump could pretend that he's Mr. Populist and anti-Wall Street. He's a creature of them. He's a billionaire. He was successfully able to hoodwink working class people in America that he's a man of the working class, even though he stiffed his workers for 30 years, even though he made all his stupid shit like Trump ties and Trump merch in China and all these other places. But it seems to me the market was tanking so bad and government bonds were being affected, is from what I was reading, that Trump just, you know, on a whim, all right, I'm going to reverse it, but, you know, I'll declare it a victory because my toughness got these countries to the table. It seems to me he just decided this on his own without telling his trade representative. I'm not even sure his Treasury Secretary knew about it. Colin, let's show the next clip. His Treasury Secretary, I think, is on like the White House lawn. He seems like a deer in the headlights too.
Very vested. Can you explain more of the decision making on what feels like a reversal here? I mean, just these went into effect less than 15 hours ago, these tariffs. Why the pause now? What led to that?
No. Again, President Trump created maximum negotiating leverage for himself, and which tariffs went into effect 15 hours ago? The ones that we have lowered went into effect a week ago. They were announced a week ago, and we've just been overwhelmed by the response from mostly our allies.
Pretty clear to me, none of them had any idea this was coming. By the way, these are the same people that went on all the Sunday shows, what's today, Wednesday, 3 days ago, saying this is not a negotiation tactic. There is no negotiation. Your thoughts on the real reason? I mean, you can't get in the orange man's head, but why did Trump do this to the best of your gut?
Well, see, banks and all the other financial institutions, not only in the U.S., but around the world, they usually work hand in glove with the governments. They understand what the policy is going to be. They discuss it with them, and there's usually a smooth landing. Banks have to create various types of assets to ensure that they have enough liquidity to survive ebbs and flows.
So,
but with the abrupt nature,
I'm sorry, can you break that down for idiots like me? Liquidity meaning they need to have enough cash reserves.
They need to have enough fluid cash reserves. That's correct. And the problem is that they have been treating treasuries like it's just straight up cash, but these things all have maturity dates and they have different lengths of time in which they become more. They're still kind of fluid, but they're not the liquid that they were looking for. And with the kind of crash boom right away, like wham, they were losing their ass. All the banks were in a position where we were looking at, as Nathan Tanka says, the next collapse of Lehman Brothers. Okay. So you were looking at banks not having enough capital assets and stuff of liquid variety. And their position was so fucked. And it all comes from an erratic child man baby at the top of the food chain, sitting there doing random acts, wondering, hey, what does this button do? You know, it kind of shit. And this is not, I don't believe that this is even negotiating or anything else. I think they just genuinely didn't know what would happen. I really believe that. And I believe that once they saw the blowback, they were like, holy shit. And maybe they will go back to these insane tariffs. I'm not a huge supporter of tariffs, and I can get into that in a little bit why. But quite frankly, they're choosing to it's kind of like blocking everyone around the world instead of just simply making domestic industrial policy so that you begin building the infrastructure and building all the things you need here. They just did it the ass backwards way. And by doing this, they created all kinds of problems. I mean, people out there saying, hey, where's the 2,000 I lost in my retirement account in one day? Hey, where is the money that I lost? Why is it that you can fuck with the markets, Trump, and everybody here has to deal with it and suck it with it? You know what? People are angry, and rightfully so. And that doesn't just mean lefties or shit libs. That means even MAGAs are pissed at Trump for this. At least the ones.
The bottom line is, while he is using your picture there, just pushing a bunch of buttons, a bunch of 59-year-olds close to retirement, their 401k just tanked in 7 days. Like, in some, I was looking at stuff online. People are saying it's almost wiped out completely. So the market, people think about the market. Yes, a lot of it is, the elites, rich people, but you got pensions in the market, and those pensions are 401ks.
Yep.
So real damage was done, and Ashley's going to come on in a little bit. We've had thousands of layoffs just in these 7 days. Frankly, even though we reversed this, I think you might see this as an excuse for more layoffs, because businesses are going to say, well, we can't be certain. This guy could wake up next Tuesday and do it again. So you might see more layoffs. It's not just the layoffs, it's the projects, the economic projects. Ashley reported on one in Erie, Pennsylvania, a recycling plant that's not going forward, or at least it was paused before this announcement. So there's so much damage just in 7 days. And again, he could have done it to begin with the way he's doing it now. He could have said, I'm announcing on Liberation Day a 90-day negotiation period with X countries to trade, tweak or change our deals. And in that time, we're going to have a 10% across the board tariff. 10% is a lot more digestible than the cockamamie numbers he was putting out there. Also, there's an element that I have to be honest, and it pains me to say this because I am pro UAW, I am pro American auto worker, but a lot of our trade deficit is because China makes better cars than us. It's not because the auto workers in Detroit aren't great at what they do, but we've had such a de-investment in this country. And the auto companies themselves, they're doing stock buybacks. They're doing dividends. Their CEOs are getting paid $25, $30 million a year. So they're not putting more money into making their cars better. China was. Japan was. So you have that trade deficit because more people in America are buying cars from China and Japan because in most cases they're more efficient, they're cheaper, etc. So you can't just erase a trade deficit if there's not the demand from certain countries for our products.
Yeah, why this concept of a trade deficit is ridiculous. It's all balances, and balance is balance, period. The bottom line is that we don't have an industrial policy. Okay. If the United States and folks, I'm sure you probably think what I'm about to say is going to sound weird or radical. I'm telling you right now, this is how all laws work. If our government would literally say, we are going to do the American Reinvestment Act, and they offered to help every manufacturing plant in the US get modernized, or whatever, we could be doing what we did in the old days. Like when I say that, I mean, like we had NASA, and I don't care what the political reasons are. We had ARPANET, DARPANET, all these things that we did research and development for within the government as a public good. And then we gave it to the private sector to bastardize with the internet. But the fact of the matter remains that the United States has unlimited resources to do the right thing. Okay, to do the right thing for all of us. I don't care if you're MAGA. I don't care if you're a shit lib. I don't care if you're a socialist. I care about you getting a better life, okay? And the fact is that when the federal government spends into these businesses, it's a game changer. Now, all of a sudden, you are really, truly saying, I want to compete with the rest of the world. If that's what your problem is, you're losing to the rest of the world. It's because if you ever watch China, go to one of their port cities, fucking monstrosities of robots and incredible ingenuity, okay, that we've stopped doing because some worthless fuck out there said, we got to reduce the deficit. What about the national debt? Slap, dumb fucking shit, right? China doesn't do that. China does not fucking do that. And we shouldn't either. In fact, we didn't even need to do that at all. We could have literally, when Biden did his crappy ass Build Back Better, instead of doing the real Green New Deal, we could have rebuilt society. We could have completely fixed our energy grid. We could have completely made ports all around the country. We could have fixed the supply chains. We could have reinvested in manufacturing by writing laws that offer up and appropriate the funds to do it. Instead, it's like, let's just cut off the rest of the world and let business take care of it. And that right there is a disgusting capitalist Republican.
And I got to tell you, and we don't have enough time to go in depth, but I don't really think what Trump is doing is about a trade deficit. I think what he's doing is recognizing China's eating our lunch. So I want to, China's eating our lunch. So the only way for us to compete, air quotes, is to try and devastate them. But the problem is you could put 2,000% tariffs on them. They are not dependent on us as much as we are dependent on them. So until you do the mass government investment industrial policy, and I want to be very clear because I don't want anyone to get it twisted. I'm not saying that American workers, let's say the auto industry, aren't as talented as Chinese workers or Mexico.
That's right.
I've met them. They're plenty talented. The problem is these car companies don't hire enough workers. So you have auto workers, including one I just interviewed yesterday, working 6-7 days a week, 13, 14 hours a day. It's hard to make great product when you're basically being dug into an early grave. Right. You have car companies that aren't investing in research and development, aren't investing like they should have in new technologies because they're too busy giving their profits back to stock buybacks, dividends, insane CEO pay. So it's not that the workers are not as talented or skilled as foreign countries. It's that there's not the investment, strategy, and intelligence here as there are there. I want to also show you, Steve. This is not breaking news that I'm about to play a CNBC clip that shows hypocrisy and the rest of it. But I want to show this because this is not just CNBC. This has been all of the networks. This has been all of the response to this. Suddenly they care about constitutional checks and balances. Colin, play that clip from CNBC.
I think that they have this limited window where there's complete chaos in every single branch of the government, as well as pretty much every other institution we have in this country. And this is the time to move if you're the president. Why not move right now? You have disarray at universities. You have disarray in law firms. You have disarray in banks.
You caused all that disarray.
Who did?
The administration has, of course.
Jesus.
Not you.
Wow.
I'm saying the you being, all right, why not?
There's no strong institutions in this country other than the executive branch. This is when you would move.
So this is all part of a plan to simply make it all about the executive branch, one man, and sow chaos throughout all of our institutions.
Yes.
So that you can move to do what?
What do you think it is? Jeffersonian democracy? What do you like, checks and balances? Mr. Supreme Court? How many divisions they have?
So, because we know the president has been talking about unfair trade policies for more than 40 years.
True. He won. It's just that we expected other institutions maybe to
funny, I didn't hear them worrying about checks and balances when, I don't know, the Obama, Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden bombed countries without congressional authority, launched wars without congressional authority. Nope. I didn't hear anything from CNBC, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. I didn't hear a goddamn thing about concerns about constitutional authority when Obama assassinated a U.S. citizen abroad, whatever his name was, Alawaki, or I forget. Whether or not he was with ISIS or not, or Al Qaeda or not, isn't the point. The guy was a U.S. citizen. I didn't hear anything about constitutional authority when basically Bush bailed them out bailed out the banks before Congress even acted. TARP and all that stuff. Now they care about constitutional authority when it's hurting their portfolios.
Yeah. Go back to the State of the Union. I'm telling you, I'm going to keep repeating this because I think people need to think about it. Go back to Joe Biden's first State of the Union, the very first, and he was already demonizing China. This is not some like partisan thing. Both of them would rather blame China for kicking our ass than invest in America, and then make the case and fight. And I saw some asshole trying to say every dollar the U.S. government spends costs money. Just I see that and I just like, God, can we deport some people? Are there some people we can deport? Yes, there are. And it's those type that fucking get the econ wrong. Deport their fucking asses, right? Because I'm tired of watching us kill each other. Literally, people are dying without health care because morons think it costs money. The U.S. spend money. It costs money. So we let people die because it costs. Shut the fuck up. Learn economics.
Yes.
I'm serious.
Yes. Rage. Now,
fucking rage is
joining
real.
us now, the talented Ashley Bishop. I'm going to have to come up with a pun or something, Ashley, for the Bishop last name. Hold on. There you go. So Before I get to your incredible report, and by the way, Ashley's only been here for about 5 minutes. She's still fine in the bathroom, even though we don't have an office. She's already getting kind of like pushed down by NYPD cops. She got invited onto Katie Halper's show last night for her great reporting. So she's doing God's work. Before we get to you, I want to give a little behind the scenes. And I called Ashley about this before the live stream. Because, Steve, you mentioned deported, people being deported. I don't know how fucked up this country is, Steve.
Oh, I'm there.
Before the live stream, I interviewed someone. I'm keeping them anonymous to protect them. Full disclosure, I interviewed this person for the reporter job. This person was a runner-up to the great Ashley, who we hired. But, I kept in touch with him and wanted to possibly use him freelance. He's on a student visa, so he's not from America. So I interviewed him because his college, Michigan State, like so many other colleges, are now just sending out emails, hey, the U.S. government is deporting X amount of students. So I wanted to interview him to actually get inside that, because I was texting with him the other night. He got that email. He's just sitting there like so many foreign students across the country on pins and needles, wondering if somebody's coming to his door. So all he could do was wait to see if he was going to be deported. Again, he's here legally on a student visa, and he's studying journalism and has done great journalism at a young age. Anyway, I'm not exaggerating. As soon as I press stop record, we finished. His door knocks. He says, "Oh shit, the police are here." I said, this can't be. I literally just interviewed this guy he had temporarily dodged. Other students were, for whatever reason, he wasn't yet. So I'm just thinking, I took out my phone and I'm just going to record this interaction. Fortunately, as far as we know, the cops were there because a Jewish student complained about an Instagram post that he put up. Yes, the police are now knocking on foreign students' door because a Jewish student complained because this guy posted their text conversation about the genocide on Instagram. Seems to be more of an issue for like Instagram than the police. But I'm just pointing out there are literally foreign students who did everything right here. They filled out the forms. They paid the money that goes with trying to get a visa here to study. They're paying the insane rates to go to college in America. And now they're basically living in fear that they're going to be deported for the crime of going to a protest, speaking up at a protest, in this person's case, covering this. So I just want people to know, like, we're going to post that interview in a few days. We're going to blur out his face and distort his voice because we now have to protect people's identities so that they don't get deported. This is the sad state of journalism. Anyway, I digress. We'll have that for you in a few days. I wanted to have you on, Ashley, because as Steve and I were talking about, Liberation Day ended up being Liberation Week, and now there's apparently a pause on the liberation. But in just 7 days, he's reversed it for now. You already did one video on this. There's thousands of people who have already been laid off. So could you go through kind of what you have found so we could actually tell the audience the real damage that has been done here just from 7 days of this insanity?
Yeah. So, I mean, over this like first week of, the Liberation Week, as I guess we're calling it now, 4,100 people were just laid off. As a direct result of the tariffs. These aren't just like incidental layoffs; they were because of the tariffs. So 4,100 people just lost their jobs, and like a lot of these people, they are in Trump country. Some of them are in California, but it really is like all over manufacturing sectors, the only ones that we still have left. That people are now out of work. Working families are out of work. They are thrown into chaos and insecurity and further precarity. So, in that video, I did read a very long list. Ro Khanna put together a thread on Twitter, which kind of outlined all of these jobs that all of these companies that were laying people off. And I started to read it. I got like halfway through and decided I can't even for a video, it was too long to read. So 4,100 people getting laid off, like you can't read a list like that. So, I think the most high-profile layoffs have been at Stellantis. I think you already spoke about that. You talked with someone at Stellantis. So yeah, so like 900 people were laid off from Stellantis already. And I guess now it's like, okay, so the tariffs are not going forward for the next 90 days, or at least we have, 10% tariffs unless you're in China. I don't know what happens to these people. Like 4,100 people are already out of work. 900 people at one factory alone, Stellantis, are out of work. So what do they do? I'm sure that those companies are not going to just hire them back and say, "Oops, we made a mistake. The tariffs are off, so I guess you can all have your jobs back." That's not how any of that works. So those people are fucked. Well, Trump is just kind of, as we were talking about earlier, Jordan, like wildly swinging back and forth, making decisions on the fly, it seems like, based on who's pissed off, who's not pissed off. And like how are people supposed to catch up with that? How are people who just lost their jobs supposed to now deal with that? So great. Tariffs are gone. Markets have rebounded by like I think 9% when I last saw. The S&P index was up by 9%. That is good. I mean, the stock market does have it gives you clues as to what companies are thinking, whether or not we might be looking at layoffs because of how, the bosses are feeling in that moment. But it doesn't help people who are already suffering the consequences of this. And we talked about.
I also want to point out, and Steve, I think you would have thoughts on this. It's not just the direct layoffs. How many companies are now reducing workers' hours because of uncertainty? So they're not straight up laying you off, but they're reducing your hours. Maybe they're reducing your hours, so now you're under the full-time threshold. So you aren't eligible for benefits anymore, or whatever company perks. So you have not just the layoffs, but Ashley, in the video you did earlier this week, you also have projects that are paused or canceled. There was one in Erie, Pennsylvania that you talked about, which is a recyclable paperboard company, which I got problems with. Well, we could get to that another time, but it was jobs. So that's been paused. So it's the layoffs. It's people probably having their hours reduced in some cases, or now because companies are uncertain. And I think a lot of times when you hear from Fox and CNBC, oh, businesses need certainty, a lot of that's bullshit. In this case, well, you can't really make hiring decisions or 6 month to a year strategy decisions if you don't know if the orange man's going to wake up next Tuesday in a bad mood and do the tariff thing all over again. So hiring might freeze. So it's a lot more than just, if it was just the layoffs, it would be bad enough, but it's all this other stuff. Right, Steve?
Well, just remember, it's not just the U.S. making decisions right now, right? The rest of the world is making decisions right now. And they're looking at the U.S. and they're saying, hey, I can't count on this fucking idiot. I can't count on the U.S. to be reliable. I'm making decisions based on them. And up until now, we kind of could predict what was going on. But now we have no clue what's going on. And so you're watching countries that have options make different choices. And you're also watching companies in the United States that are using these excuses to lay people off. I have a great example, but I won't use it because it's in my own backyard and I'm just not going to touch it. But I will tell you this. There are a lot of companies and industry in general that look at these signals from the government, signals from the Fed, signals from Wall Street, signals all over the place. They use a tweet, they use a quote, they use whatever, and then they will go ahead and act as if it happened. And you will see that's where a lot of the price gouging came in during the pandemic. That's where a lot of other things, they use these market signals. So it's not just, you can't just say, oh, psych, everything's back to normal. I would expect more layoffs to happen even now. I would expect companies who had to make decisions on the fly, banks who had to radically restructure their position in terms of assets and stuff that they're holding. Probably had to, oh my God, we got to move. And they were quickly making moves based on the plummeting market. And those moves aren't going to be undone now because, you know what I'm saying? Like we don't even know we won't be able to gauge this probably for another 3 months, 6 months, even maybe the impacts of this.
I love it when you give me a good segue. It pains me to credit Mrs. I'm just a player in the game, but Elizabeth Warren just made the point. She's not my cup of tea. Better than Pelosi, I'll say, but she's certainly not my preferred progressive. But she was on, I believe, with CNBC. She pointed this out, that other companies are basically just going to increase prices, even though they're not affected. Colin, let's play that.
You remember our last conversation. This is almost like part two. Remember our last conversation about price gouging. So now you got another way to say that corporations are doing that. Well, but egg prices came down, inflation came down. It seems like the corporations only gouge when you say they're gouging, and then they're unable to at other times.
So I know you don't want to listen to me on this, but listen to Jerome Powell on this. The example he gave on Friday was from the last time that Trump's tariffs went into effect. And he said there was a tariff on washing machines. No surprise, the price of washing machines went up. But the shocking part is the price of dryers went up as well, even though there was no imposition of tariffs on those. You tell me what that is, except for price gouging.
Trying to figure that out. Unless you have a clothesline, unless you have a clothesline out back, you need the dryer, though, Senator.
Well, you need the dryer, but the price doesn't go up on dryers. The cost of dryers didn't go up.
Growing up.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
The times. Totally. And I love the smell.
I love the way you're changing the subject here. That is an example of price gouging.
They told me we had less than a minute.
They
said we had less than a minute left.
Now they say we can keep it going.
Now we can keep it going.
Now we can keep it going.
I don't want to keep it going.
Ashley, I got to give it to her. She's spot on. And I think, even though it was only 7 days, companies might use this uncertainty, which is legitimate uncertainty, to not only lay people off, but raise prices anyway.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, and as Steve said, I mean, any excuse that they can find to raise prices, they're going to do it. And any excuse that they can find to lay people off, they're going to do it. And I think part of the what we probably will see happen as far as, people potentially getting jobs back, it's going to be like at GM, where they said, oh, okay, we're bringing more jobs back here. Because of the tariffs, we're so motivated. We're going to increase our production at the Fort Wayne manufacturing facility. So it's like 225 to 250 jobs, but they left out that it's temporary jobs. Those are all temp workers. So those people have no security. Those are not like high paying jobs. So I think that part of what you'll end up seeing after like rounds of layoffs, if jobs do come back, they will be temporary jobs or like entry level jobs. And I think what's important to note, especially at like places like Stellantis, your time on the job and seniority, that matters as far as like wages and benefits go. So if you've been there for however many years, let's say like 5-10 years, you're laid off, you're starting from scratch again. So you're not back in the position that you were in previously. You're maybe a temp now, or you are at like an entry level job. They're going to use this as an excuse to basically like wipe the slate clean for people. I don't know how people are supposed to weather all of this. You can't weather all of this uncertainty, all these layoffs. And as you guys said, like there's going to be hiring freezes and all that, coupled with probably artificially raised prices under the excuse of tariffs. I don't know how working.
Well, the answer is very simple, Ashley. You ready? Stop hiring humans.
Apparently.
That is an ode. Ashley did a video earlier. Everybody should check it out. They're now literally posting billboards around San Francisco, other cities. Stop hiring humans. AI companies. So we're there. We've been warning. 1984 Orwellian hellscape. We're here. You got fake AI models popping up on my Facebook. You got Spotify just sent down a missive to their workers. If there's functions that could be done through AI, we expect you to find an AI solution rather than hiring people. And we're not even mentioning, Steve, and we got to move on to the next topic, but we're not even mentioning all of this was happening when you already had, what are we at, like 50,000 government workers that were fired? Maybe more than that? That alone could cause a recession. But now you're adding on all this. Your final thoughts on this, Steve?
I can't say it enough. Why do we allow private industry to dictate to us what work is valuable when things that we need as, community members and just citizens, that we have different needs than industry? We allow some capitalists to tell us what they think is valuable. And this is the bullshit with the whole federal jobs things. When you have work that needs to be done, it doesn't need to be for-profit work. It doesn't need to have a profit motive at the end. We have bastardized this whole concept. Instead of embracing robotics, taking jobs that no one wants to do or dangerous or whatever, instead of creating care work, instead of creating work that, my God, think about how many people die alone right now. All joking aside, they die alone. They don't have anyone there. Why are we not doing things to make life better for people? Why do we keep begging for the job? Because China isn't filling those types of jobs with their robotics. They're putting high-end workers in there to work with the robotics, but the robotics are doing the hard work. Why is it that we don't do that? And it's ideological. I'm telling you right now, we need to dream a bigger dream, and we need to make bigger demands. And with all due respect to all of our friends and allies out there, we got to stop acting like it's fucking tax dollars funding these things and start realizing it's not Margaret Thatcher's world. It's the real world where we literally spend money into existence on the things that matter. And since we don't do that, you got this problem now.
Which brings me, Ashley, I forgot to tell you, an assignment. I'm gonna lock you in a virtual room with Steve Grumbine, so he could give you a tutorial on modern monetary theory.
Okay.
Get ready for that doozy, and bring your choice of beverage. Okay. Before I get to the last topic, which I'm about to get animated, and Ashley, I want you to stay for this. I have a public service announcement. I'm taking off my glasses. 700 people watching. Smash that like button. We want to send Ashley on the ground for her first reporting trip. And I think in these terrible times brought by Trump, we need to put a face to the misery. Yes, we could be in the studio, but we want to put a face to the misery. We want to get her out there to talk to people who have been laid off, whether it be through Doge and Emperor Musk or Liberation Week. We want to get her out there. Let's spotlight the services that are being cut. Steve and I have gone through programs like disability programs, special education programs, cut because of Doge. We want to get her out there to interview those folks. We want to get her out there to focus on projects that are being canceled. Ashley reported on one earlier this week. We just found another project in Ohio that's being canceled because of the tariffs. We want to get her out there. Just name your story. I mean, people living paycheck to paycheck, even worse than now, facing evictions. There's obviously, as we cover all the time, communities having water problems. But we want to get her out there on the ground to focus on Trump 2.0 and a lot of the misery that's coming as a result. We've done several of these trips. We go through a few states about a week and try to interview as many people as possible. But we're trying to pay Ashley a good living wage. Got to send John with her. Obviously, car. I just spoke with John today because we got to get a new car for him so that he could drive with Ashley out there. So we need your help. I sent an email yesterday. I sent another email today. We are now embarking on a 1,000-member campaign. We want to add 1,000 new members. God damn it, Colin. I should have asked you to show that chart too. My bad. Because we are growing. We're actually on a list now in the first 3 months of the year. We're one of the fastest growing YouTube channels on the left. I think, not to toot our horn, I think we outpaced even the majority. Colin has it. Of course he does. So we're right down there, baby. Status Coup. We grew 115,000 subscribers. We got to make it bigger, but that's okay. We grew 115,000 subscribers. So we're on the board, baby, growing. But we have an additional bar that most of those channels don't, because we get out there on the ground. So if you got $5 a month, that's all I'm asking. That's 16 cents a day. Okay. I'm sure you spend $5 a month on something you don't need. A shitty cup of Starbucks. Sorry to my union friends. I want you employed, but it's burnt coffee. Let's be honest.
Starburns.
Yes. So please support us. StatusCoup.com/join. We're growing. That's why we were able to hire Ashley, but we want to keep her. We want to hire a producer. Tina's covering another fight oligarchy rally on Saturday in LA. expecting 20 to 30,000 people. So we got to pay people. And I do not have the Federal Reserve to print money out of my anus. So I need you. So sign up, statuscoup.com/join, $5 a month. All right, real quick. And Steve, whenever you got to go, just tell me. All right. In addition to Trump, and here again, Colin, we have to do another snowflake alert. Go ahead. So wine moms, resistance libs, if you're going to be triggered by us dare criticizing a Democrat, now is the time to exit the building. Gretchen Whitmer appeared in D.C. today to offer her industrial policy. I don't know exactly what she was doing. Let's be honest. It's the kickoff to her 2028 ambitions. Gavin Newsom started it with his podcast, cradling Steve Bannon and other people's balls. And now you have Gretchen Whitmer out there. So let's just show one or two of those clips, her in D.C.
I came to D.C. because I really believe in our
dance,
ability to bridge political divides and make lasting progress. And yes, I do believe that. Even in my 7th year as governor, in this tumultuous time in this country and around the globe, I still believe that. And I remain guided by the values that I learned growing up in a bipartisan household in the Midwest. Values of decency, respect, and kindness still shape the way that I approach this work, and it helps me make sure I stay focused on what matters so we can get things done.
That bipartisan dinner table, if only I could be there. And we're going to get to her decency and kindness because, hint, hint, it's all an act. But she was there. I don't really understand why. She met with Trump, I guess, about tariffs. Here's the article. Gretchen Whitmer encourages more U.S. production during Washington, D.C. address. I don't particularly know why she needed to go to D.C. for that. She proposed some proposals. Colin, let's play the other clip.
As a former state legislator, I worked with a Republican governor in Michigan to expand Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act. This covers hundreds of thousands of Michiganders. As a governor, I worked with a Republican-led legislature most of my time as governor. I've signed over 1,500 bipartisan bills and enacted 6 balanced budgets into law. Michiganders have an opportunity, and I believe an obligation, to lead by example and show the folks in D.C. how we get things done. Before we dig into some of my proposals today, I need to acknowledge
Okay, so let me show you how she got things done. And sorry, Democrats, if you're watching, this is not a safe place, as I said, so I'm here to tell you the truth. We can't just, ignore the predators on our side because Trump's a fascist. We could walk and chew gum at the same time, and this person is not your friend. Let's start with Flint, Michigan, which is now, it's April 9th. So in 2 weeks, it will be 11 years officially since Flint, Michigan has had toxic water. Yes, don't believe the headlines. They still have toxic water in Flint, Michigan. Cancer is surging because of the government poisoned them. And a brilliant author wrote a book called We the Poisoned, exposing the Flint water cover-up, which you should definitely buy. Also available on audio.
Still have my signed copy.
Oh, I'm sorry. That would be me. I wrote that book. It was based on 9 years of reporting, and I hear it's good. Okay. So let's show you what Gretchen Whitmer said when she was a candidate in 2017 about what she was going to do for Flint, if you have that.
So I think about the parents of Flint every time I turn on my tap. I was in Flint at church a couple months ago, and I was talking to a mom. She pulled her sleeve up and showed me the rash up and down her arm from taking a shower that morning before church. She only bathes her kids once a week because they all break out like that. My plan to fix the problem in Flint starts with expediting the replacement of the pipes, refurbishing the replacement of bottled water until every pipe is replaced, and real wraparound supports for the children of Flint. 8,000 children in Flint brush their teeth every night with water that had lead on it. And you know what? They called the Attorney General. They asked 15 times. They filed complaints over the course of 2 years and were ignored. He signed off on the initial order.
So for those that don't
permitted-
know, Walter, 2017 is living in the past. Yeah, why not? Let's not live in the past of the whole Poison City, right? Who fucking cares? It's the past. Get lost. Okay, so she was saying there, I'm going to reopen the free water stations, which the poison people of Flint depended on for clean water, because the governor before her, Rick Snyder, who presided over poisoning them, who covered it up, which I exposed in my book, he shut down all those centers around Flint where residents could go and get free bottled water, which you're not only using to drink, you're using it for cooking, you're using it for bathing in many cases, you're using it for brushing your teeth. So people needed free bottled water. She pledged that she was going to reopen them. She's been governor for 7 years. Hasn't reopened the Flint water stations. She could have done it on day one. Didn't reopen them. You see there that she mentioned we're going to expedite the removal of all the lead pipes in Flint. That was 2018, that protest. The lead pipes, meaning the service lines, those are the water pipes that go from your curb into your home. They were all busted. They should have replaced all the main pipes that run underneath the street. They also should have replaced all the pipes inside the home, the internal plumbing, because all of it was destroyed by essentially acid water. Okay. The state did nothing about replacing the service lines until last year, 6 years into her governorship. If you have that article, Colin, the state of Michigan finally in 2024 said, we'll step in here to repair thousands of yards damaged by lead pipe replacement because the city of Flint and its corrupt mayor wasn't doing it. So she didn't reopen the free water stations. I could tell you it's still a problem because 20% of Flint do not have transportation. They relied on home delivery. Okay. Flint is 40-something% poverty. People cannot afford to go buy stacks and stacks of bottled water, which they still need to because the water is still toxic 11 years later. So what are they left with? If you can't afford crates of bottled water, you go back to drinking the tap water. And all of the damaged pipes 11 years later, and it's not all Whitmer's fault. Of course, she wasn't in office for the inciting incident. She wasn't in office when this crime happened. But I could tell you the people of Flint were very hopeful and excited to vote for her because she made a lot of promises to them. You know what she's done for Flint? She gave them a state park. She gave them a state park. So, hey, great talk about her bipartisan dinner table, but she didn't fucking follow through on her promises to Flint. They still haven't changed the pipe. Her attorney general, which I'm here to tell you folks, they're not independent. They talk. Her attorney general sabotaged the criminal investigation and let all the criminals off that poisoned these poor people, and Whitmer said nothing about it. So she hasn't done jack shit for Flint. And I'm here to show you, don't take it from me. You want to know how clean the water in Flint is? Colin, let's play the video from January of this year.
Cold water.
Wow.
Notice the discoloration.
There's your clean water in Flint. And I want to be clear. It's not all Gretchen Whitmer's fault. She didn't cause the crisis, but you ran on fixing it. You haven't done butkus for these poor people. And I want to be clear. This ain't just about Flint. She's done it to another community, which we're about to get to. Colin, let's show the other image real quick. This was from April of last year. So the 10-year anniversary, Little Miss Flint. Look how clean the water is in Flint. This came out of my faucet on the north side of Flint yesterday. That's April 2024. So you got these resistance liberals on Twitter telling me, Jordan, you're spreading misinformation. The water is clean in Flint. I respond, hey, when's the last time you went to Flint? Because I've been there 21 fucking times. And I can tell you it's not clean. Is it better than it was in 2016? Yes. But you don't need an engineering degree to understand if they have not replaced all of the pipes that had acid water going through them for 18 months, you're going to have more heavy metals and other shit coming off the pipes, because it doesn't matter if the water is clean coming from the plant if it's going through corroded infrastructure. Steve, we've been talking about China, and they doubled down on their infrastructure. We have done nothing for our infrastructure.
No. Just real quick, I was in China in 2008. I got to go to Beijing and I got to go to Shanghai. And even at that point in time, you could see in Shanghai, walking from one side of the street was like you were in the far off future, man. They were like way jet set. But then you walk, a couple hundred yards down the road and you're stepping in open sewage. They knew they had a problem. They were living in an ancient, a country that has been around forever, unlike the way we kind of colonize this place. And they are literally ahead of us after digging up all that ancient stuff. They literally created a like true 21st century type country. It's amazing what they've done.
And by the way, this problem, the damage cannot be undone. People died, people are sick, cancer. Flint is one of the worst cancer clusters in America. And they're not getting cancer from the weather. It's from their water. And nobody gives a shit. People care, but nobody knows. Why? Because Democrats don't say anything. They pretend that it's all, they say mission accomplished. They use bullshit testing from the EPA, bullshit manipulated testing to say the water's fine. Everything's great. They don't have Medicare for all. Kids have been permanently damaged. You have high suicide rates among teenagers in Flint. Those teenagers were children when they were poisoned. It affects your brain. It affects your behavior. It causes depression, anxiety. All right, so that's Flint. And Steve, whenever you got to go, just let me know.
I got to go.
All right, Steve has to feed his kitties. Tell people where they can find your great work.
Saturday mornings, we release Macro and Cheese podcast on Spotify, every possible podcast outlet. Please check it out. You can go to our website, realprogressives.org, to find it as well. Tuesday evenings, we have Macro and Chill as well. And coming up soon, I'll be back during the 12 noon hour on Real Progress in Action, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So in the meantime, you can catch me here at Status Coup. And Jordan and Ashley, thank you so much for having me. I'll see you all next time.
God bless, my friend. Take care.
Bye.
Now we're going to get to something that Whitmer is directly causing in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And I'm sorry if you're a vote blue no matter who, you can't reflexively say, I don't care, Trump. No. This is what enables people like Donald Trump. When you don't fight for the people, when you don't fight and execute on the promises you made, people get dejected. They just don't vote. They vote third party. Or they get so dejected, they're going to vote for a fucking con man like Donald Trump. That's what keeps enabling fascists like Trump, when you don't have an opposition party. So a couple, 2-3 years ago, I forget, I had people from Kalamazoo, Michigan messaging me while I was in Flint. Hey, Jordan, there's a packaging company, a paper mill that's releasing really, really smelly gas into the north side of Kalamazoo. Kalamazoo's on the west side of Michigan. And it's so bad, asthma rates in this community are through the roof. COPD is through the roof. Kids have died because of severe asthma. And I looked into it, and literally it's a plant called Graphic Packaging. They make recyclable paperboard, which sounds good. It's good and green, but they didn't have a carbon filter on their plant when they're releasing these gases. And they clearly weren't following regulations because they were releasing all sorts of crazy levels of gas. Colin, let's play we have a lot of new subscribers, so you might know nothing about this story. Let's play the first, I think, the Twitter clip.
And this is at whatever time it is now, probably 6 o'clock. What is being released from that plant?
There's over 30 different toxic gases and chemicals: sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, methyl mercaptan, all kinds of VOCs that cause cancer. I mean, the list is so long. Toluene, the list is long, and every single one of the toxic gases or toxic chemicals cause a disease like cancer, respiratory disease, kidney disease, you name it.
Your son also is 32. He's on life support. Can you talk about what his health was before you moved closer and how it has gone downhill since then?
Well, before we moved here, my son's health was perfect. It wasn't nothing he didn't do. He always was healthy. He was always going and doing. And then one day we was getting ready to go to Ramona Beach, and he loved going to the beach. So I called his name, like, DeAndre, we ready, let's go. And there was no response. So I sent a guy that called me Mom. I sent him up there to see why DeAndre wasn't answering me. And he yelled down for us to call 911, say DeAndre wasn't breathing. And that's how that all began. He had a severe asthma attack that caused him to stop breathing. And we all went on from there.
And how old was he when that happened?
5 years ago, let's say he was 32 now.
27, 28?
Yeah, he was about 27.
That interview with Deanne, and I was wearing a mask because a block away from that paper mill, the smell is still overwhelming, and I was trying not to inhale it. These people live there. That was in April of 2023. This past weekend, Deanne's son, Colin, come on for a second. So Colin came with me on that trip. At the plant, we did a live stream at the plant, and this is not my first rodeo. I've covered a few stories. One in St. Louis at a nuclear waste site that was leaking nuclear waste. I had to wear a mask. It smelled like death. I have never smelled anything like this plant. I mean, a mask was like toilet paper on your face. It was straight up your nose, into your throat, what they were emitting from this plant. And some people will say, well, yeah, Jordan, I have a paper mill near me. It smells. No. This was not just a smell. I had a severe fucking headache, and I don't get headaches. My eyes were burning. Colin, you had a headache for like, what, a week? You're muted. Can't hear you. While he figures out technology, I will speak for Colin.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Yeah, no, it was like a week and a half, which I get headaches here and there, but that was one of the longest headaches I've had of continuous. And I remember like driving up to the plant because we went, and originally our first filming thing was directly in front of the plant, which we never did again. Because driving up to it, there's literally a point where going up to it, it felt like there was a wall and you passed through it. And after that point, it suddenly, we had like the itchy eyes and throat and stuff like that. And you started to feel off and all that. It was very visceral. And so being close to that for more than, we were just there for a day, not a full day even. So I can't imagine being there all the time.
And literally where I interviewed her was a block away. I'm wearing a mask, and the mask is pretty much not doing anything because you could still smell it and it's going up. So this poor woman, her 17-year-old daughter died of a severe asthma attack. 17-year-old daughter, perfectly healthy before they moved here. In that clip, she's referencing her 32-year-old son. He has since died.
That poor woman.
I have interviewed people. They can't go outside. We will take a little bit of credit. They were dragging their feet on doing a health study claiming it was delayed because of COVID. The state health and environmental department, they dragged their feet for 3 years. But when we started reporting on it and kicking and screaming, and also we got a video on Breaking Points about it, suddenly they expedited the health study. And what do you know? The health study found they're releasing elevated levels of toxic gas. What did Gretchen Whitmer's health department tell them to do? What's the solution? Not to shut down the plant. If it's particularly bad, stay inside. That's literally what they told them to do. But it gets worse. Let me repeat for those in the back. Health study shows this multi-billion-dollar packaging company, which Gretchen Whitmer has given significant tax breaks to, by the way. The company, gives to local food banks and charities and colleges, so, employs a lot of people. By the way, Colin was with me. We're literally in the parking lot leaving. A gentleman in the car asks us, "Oh, what are you doing here?" Because we had cameras and stuff. We're telling him, "Oh, we're covering this plant. There's a lot of sick people around here." It's an employee of the company, just realizing because we told him, "Oh, I've been really sick since I started working here." Didn't even know. The employees don't even know what they're releasing. It's because we told them what we were there covering that it dawned on him. And I told him, "Listen, man, I know you did a job, but for your own health, I would get a new job if you can." Anyway, Gretchen Whitmer, despite years of complaints from the local residents, and when I say local residents, poor black people. This is a poor black neighborhood. They were calling the environmental department, complaining to the health department, complaining to local Kalamazoo officials. Crickets. Start complaining to Whitmer. She heard the complaints. Her health department heard the complaints. They sent people there to do sniff tests. Literally, you had environmental department people opening up their window and just sniffing if they smelled something. That was their environmental testing. Okay? Gretchen Whitmer in 2021, despite all the complaints, and by the way, this company had been fined by the state of Michigan, but what's a fine to them? They paid it and moved on. Her government helped this company with a $125 million bond deal to help them expand. Let that sink in. The government of Michigan approved a $125 million bond deal, government money, to help this company that, I am not being dramatic, we were there, thanks to you Status Coup viewers funding us, is gassing a black community. This is not dramatic. That's what's going on. She helped them expand by approving a $125 million bond deal. And this isn't some innocent thing. Jordan, maybe she doesn't know. Well, if she doesn't know, she should not be a governor, much less a mayor, much less president. And she does know. You want to know how I know she knows? Because she won't respond to my request for comment, and she won't respond to other reporters' requests for comments. You know why she won't respond? Because she has higher political ambitions, and she doesn't want the focus to be on this, because this could be a big problem for her. Let's show the other clip so you could see Deanne more about her and what she and others are going through.
Now I'm on. Now I'm on an inhaler. I'm on a respiratory machine. It's just really bad. Most of the times that don't even help. I have to go to the hospital, and I have to get an asthma treatment. But I hate when I go to the hospital because they always want to keep me. That's how bad they say my lungs have gotten.
Your lungs have what?
Gotten worse and getting worse.
And again, you tell them you live next to this paper mill that's putting out all this gas, and they don't
care. We need somebody to start caring about our lives. Our lives is important, just like the rich people, just like the Mexicans, just like the whoever. Our lives is important too.
Can I ask you? I've talked to others. You've reached out to the mayor. You reached out to the city council. You reach out to the state of Michigan's health department, environmental department. Have you ever gotten a response?
Not response from. We got one response from Monica, the lady that comes out to do the spill. When we call this 1-800 number, she might call me back. If I call her at 4 o'clock in the evening, she might call me back at 9:30 that night. And then she come out and she say, "Well, I smelt it with my nose and it's very faint to me."
Can you imagine that? They are literally testing through their nose. And there are some parts of the day where it's not as bad. And they have, by the way, the health study that they did, they didn't study for all the gases that are being released from that plant. They only studied for a few. I mean, we're talking about genocide in Gaza. What exactly do you call this? It's a slower moving one, but this is government sanctioned genocide. I got one more clip and then I want your thoughts, Ashley.
We should point out also, which is just crazy to me, it's gotten worse because the state of Michigan, under the current governor, Gretchen Whitmer, they approved a $125 million bond deal that allowed Graphic Packaging, who, by the way, is a multi-billion-dollar international company. Gretchen Whitmer's administration approved a $125 million bond deal to let them expand in 2021. And they already knew, her administration knew the complaints that were coming in. There was media reports about it. What are your thoughts on, the Democratic governor approved this plant to expand, knowing the complaints?
Like Brandy was saying yesterday, I think they all in cahoots with each other. I think Graphic Packaging is giving them some type of money up under the table. All of them are working together, if you ask me. Because like I said, I'm going to keep saying it, they don't care if we live or die. But I'm begging y'all to please step up and do something before I lose another child. It's hard for a mother to bury a child, and less known bury two childs. It gets to me every day.
Could you tell me about your daughter, what her name was? What was she like?
My daughter's name was LaPrece Stegall. Everybody around here knew her. She was a loving person. Like I said, she was energetic. She was outgoing. She was just like our whole world. She was like our sunshine. Ever since my daughter been gone, it's like a whole piece of my heart, my inside. Everything is just like cold, black. I just miss her very much.
And unfortunately, tragically, that was, I think, in 2023, and her second child died too. I'm not a doctor, but I do know they were relatively healthy before they moved a block away from this toxic plant. And there's other people very sick there. And there's been a very high, this neighborhood, the infant mortality rate is much higher than the other parts of Kalamazoo. And I will add, after they expanded this plant, thanks to bipartisan dinner table Whitmer, the white folks started smelling it. So that spread to the west side. So when I've been there 2 or 3 times, I interviewed white folks, not wealthy people either, doing better than the lower income folks in that community. They're getting headaches, not as bad because they're not in the immediate zone, but that gas is spreading because when they expanded it, they were emitting a lot more gas. This is why Status Coup exists. Trust me, I'm not getting rich off of going to Flint and Kalamazoo. These stories are not going viral. Frankly, Ashley, this is probably the first time you've even seen it because you didn't see it in mainstream media. And I promise you, you already have, political pundits doing 2028 rankings for candidates. Gretchen Whitmer's on there. Not a one is going to mention a goddamn thing about this because they don't care. The media does not care. They don't care about Flint, Kalamazoo. They care about when the inciting incident begins. But if it's a Democrat responsible, let's look the other way. I don't care if a Democrat caused it. I don't care if a Republican caused it. I don't care if a fucking purple alien caused it. Bottom line, people are sick because we're allowing corporations to literally poison communities in America. And she's in D.C. talking about her industrial plan or some shit. I think we could do better than Gretchen Whitmer. Sorry about that long-winded montage and rant you had to sit through. Now I think you're getting an idea why I'm so pissed.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, there was so much there, and I have a lot of them. I guess my first thought is just that poor fucking woman. Like, losing two children so close to each other, two children who are, at an age you don't expect your child to die. When you have a baby, I think that's a little bit different in this country. Like, infant mortality rates are not great, but you don't expect your 32-year-old child to just die. That's fucking horrible. And she had mentioned she was calling local health agencies, and they don't even respond to her. So it's like part of me wants to say all of this is occurring at a time where there are cuts to the EPA, all of these agencies that are tasked with protecting us in this way, that have the teeth to actually enforce some kind of regulation, but they weren't doing anything. They weren't helping her. So what good did they do then? If as you said, people are coming in and doing smell tests, what the fuck is that? That does not sound official in any sense. And also, we're doing smell tests during and after COVID, when some people have actually permanently lost their sense of smell. That's fucking stupid. As you've said several times, for the people that are vote blue no matter who, all of that garbage, this is why I don't feel that way. It's exactly this, because they don't fucking care. They say all of these things about how much they care about working people. They're the party to protect the working class. But when the working class actually needs protection, they're not fucking there. And then in I think the first clip that you showed, you had Whitmer up there, talking about how she thinks of Flint every time she turns on her tap. I think that's what she said. And she spoke with some woman at church, because of course she said she was at church. Who had a burn or a rash on her arm from bathing before that. And the woman said, "Oh, I only bathe my kids once a week because the water's fucking toxic." The gall of her to use that example up there and to be in a position of power to change that for people and not do anything over however many years, 11 years you said, that
She's been in office for 7.
Oh, okay, yes. So to be fair to her, she's been in office for 7. The crisis has been going on for 11. She's had 7 years to do something, anything. And I know you mentioned some of the pipes were replaced last year.
Some, yeah.
Okay, that's not good enough.
But she said in her campaign, we're going to expedite pipe replacement. Yeah, she just got to it 6 years into her governorship. 6 years. And let me explain that to people, because it sounds kind of vague. 6 years of a delay in pipe replacement means 6 more years that people have been drinking toxic water, because the pipes are very corroded. I have seen the inside of these pipes. Imagine if acid was going through pipes for 2 years, and then after that, you're putting water back through those pipes. They are badly corroded. So heavy metals are still coming off the pipes because they haven't been replaced. And by the way, they're only replacing the service lines. So as we showed you in our documentary, Flint Fatigue, that's just 1 out of 3 sets of pipes. You have main pipes underneath the street. They haven't touched those. The toxic water didn't just jump over the main pipes. That's why mains in Flint are breaking constantly, because they are badly corroded. They're only doing the interior pipes. I didn't even mention in my explanation, it's in my book, I've reported on it, former Flint mayor Karen Weaver, she's the first female mayor of Flint, she went to Whitmer when Whitmer got elected. She, like many people in Flint, were very hopeful because they no longer had to deal with Rick Snyder, who fucking poisoned them and covered it up, and they had a Democrat coming in. They were very hopeful that finally someone's going to deliver us justice and help us do something real. The former mayor went to Whitmer and said, I need help from the state. I need funding to help replace a resident's interior plumbing. Because it doesn't matter if the pipes are replaced outside your home. If your interior water pipes, which is the last stop for the pipes before it goes to your tap, if they're badly corroded, you still have lead and other heavy metals leaching out. Whitmer said, and I quote, and this is why we named the documentary Flint Fatigue, I can't get any more money from the state. Lawmakers have Flint fatigue. Let me repeat. The governor of Michigan said, I can't do anything. Me, the fighter, does plenty of commercials saying, transgender people, welcome here. Women who need an abortion, welcome here. I'm for both of those things, by the way. So she's a fighter on the cultural stuff, but I can't lift a finger for you, Miss Mayor, because the lawmakers have Flint fatigue. Then fucking fight. Get in front of a camera, hold a press conference, and point to these Republicans who won't give you money to replace damaged pipes in poison poor people's homes. And let's not let Obama off the hook about this either. I'm going to trigger some more people because a lot of people focus on the fact that Obama went to Flint and, drank that sip of water and insulted everyone. That was horrible. But Obama actually, it's worse than that. Flint happened under Obama. He was not responsible for it, but Flint was only given a state of emergency. Obama did not sign a disaster declaration. Okay? That's a big difference. Same thing in East Palestine. Biden had on his desk a request to sign a disaster declaration for East Palestine. He did not sign it. They hide behind a law called the Stafford Act because they say the Stafford Act prohibits us from issuing a disaster declaration for a situation like Flint or a situation like East Palestine because it's not a natural disaster. And only natural disasters like a hurricane, tornado, etc., can be a disaster declaration. And a disaster declaration, the federal government basically takes over. So you could send FEMA in there. You could send the Army Corps of Engineers, which in this case, the Army Corps could have dug up the pipes. This could have been, every pipe in Flint could have been replaced in 2 years. The union plumbers told me they offered the federal government, we'll do it at a discount. Obama wouldn't sign a disaster declaration. I have talked to lawyers. I have talked to experts saying if he wanted to, he could. When there's a will, there's a way. They seem to be able to bend the rules for banks to bail them out. They seem to be able to do things if it benefits wealthy people. There's plenty of loopholes in the federal government to do all sorts of things. But he couldn't sign a disaster declaration because to the letter of the law, it's not a disaster. Give me a fucking break. Okay? So that's why Flint wasn't issued a disaster declaration, and that's a big reason why 11 years, all the pipes have not been replaced. They don't have Medicare for all. Do you know that the Flint, for the water crisis, all they got was short-term Medicaid expansion only for those 21 and under? Obviously, the kids are very important, and we wanted the kids to have short-term Medicaid expansion, but it's not like heavy metals, lead, bacteria doesn't affect adults. That's why there's a major cancer surge in Flint. So Obama, it wasn't just, people only respond to things visually. So they see the clip that goes around with him drinking the water and telling residents, it's not so bad. By the way, I don't even know if it was Flint water. Michael Moore swears that it was water from Air Force One. I can't confirm that, but I would believe it. But the point is, and why, listen, Ashley and I have talked about this off camera. I think we talked about it in your interview. We would make a shit ton of more money if we did not say a word about Democrats. On YouTube, you make a lot more money if you pick a team. For example, I don't know him. Do you see Brian Tyler Cohen doing anything negative about Democrats? No. Do you see the MAGA? He might be a nice guy. I don't know. But there's certain channels that they're Democrat channels, rah-rah Democrats. He gets interviews with Democrat candidates because he gives them softball pillow parties. I mean, that's just the truth. You got MAGA channels. They're twisting themselves into human pretzels to not say anything bad about their cult leader. And they grow faster than us, and they're more profitable than us because YouTube elevates that. And we would grow a lot quicker if we just shit on Trump all day or went right wing. I have chosen not to do that long before Ashley joined us because I have to be able to sleep at night. And because I've been on the ground and I have seen and I have lived and breathed stories like Flint, I am sorry to tell you, there really isn't a blue or a red team in this country. They fooled you into thinking those are the two teams. There's a green team. No, not the Green Party. There's a green team, the capitalist pigs, because this shit's happening under Republicans. Things happening under Democrats. Are Democrats better on certain things? Yes. Right now, gun to my head, would I rather Biden in a coma than what Trump is doing? Yes. But the point is, the point is, and I got shit because I voted for Biden in 2020. I told the audience my reasons for doing it, and I got shit. I still get shit because I voted for Jill Stein this time. I don't tell people how to vote. I've always told you vote however you want. I'm telling you what I'm doing, but you do what you want. I'm not here. I don't like the whole, voter shaming. I don't like Democrats that vote shame people who vote third party. And I also don't like people on the left who vote shame people who vote for Democrats. Like this whole moral superiority complex, people having to oh, but you voted for him. Like, who fucking cares who you voted for? The point is, I would be doing a disservice to truth and information and facts if all we did was shit on Trump. And trust me, we can just shit on Trump. There's way more than we could even do in a day. But the problem is, and Ashley, I'd love your thoughts before we end. The problem is, if you just shit on Trump, but you allow it to stand that people like Cory Booker are real fighters for the working class because he did a 25-hour filibuster, and Ashley did a great video on that. When you basically white lie, just do a bunch of white lies, or what's the word? What's the phrase? Like deletion by omission, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
No, we can't. How do you get Trump? How does a used car salesman, guy who went bankrupt 100 times, beat one of the biggest political dynasties since the Kennedys, talking about Hillary Clinton? Because the masses are pissed. The masses are starving. The masses are working 2 jobs. There's been a grand bank robbery in this country for 40 years. We always show the chart. So if we just sit here as a channel and rehabilitate the Democrats just because we want to get rid of Trump, well, how did that work out? Because we did that in 2020. Not we, the country. We did that. Everybody said, hold your nose. Vote for Biden so we can get rid of Trump. Well, you got Biden in there. And what did he do? Not a lot. Not a lot. I mean, I think his COVID bill was relatively good compared to the neoliberal rump roast. But after that, he just moved to the right. His approval was at the highest after the COVID bill because he actually provided things for people who needed it. And then he moved to the right. He did not fight Manchin and Sinema. He did a child tax credit for a year. It was good, but he didn't fight to extend it. You think Trump would allow Lindsey Graham or Susan Collins block his legislation? Are you kidding? Biden allowed these 2 political terrorists to why? I think because they were rotating villains. I think more the Democratic Party didn't want. So the point is, I think we'd be doing a disservice to the audience if we just said, it doesn't matter if Cory Booker killed legislation that would have brought in cheaper drugs from Canada, which you reported on in your video. Oh, it doesn't matter that Pete Buttigieg, who the media is slobbering over for 4 years, literally demolished 1,000 homes in 1,000 days in South Bend, Indiana, largely in Latino and poor Black parts of towns. We were there and we showed you that. A sea of empty lots so that he could gentrify 5 blocks. That's what Pete Buttigieg did. Yay, gay mayor. I don't give a fuck if you're gay or straight. You fucking suck. You're a neoliberal corporatist hack. Gay people suck and straight people suck. Gay people are corrupt and straight people are corrupt. And by the way, there's a lot of Black leaders that are corrupt too. Because corruption has no color either. It's green. So I'm going on a long-winded rant, but that's my point. People need to get out because let me tell you something. My biggest fear, Ashley, is we just go on this constant merry-go-round and this constant cycle of house is on fire. Trump, we got to get rid of him. We got to get back to normal. All right, put in Buttigieg. Without any concern of, oh, well, this guy's actually just a McKinsey corporate hack. He might not be a full-on fascist, but he's a McKinsey corporate hack who's just going to continue the trend of funneling money to rich people and crumbs for the masses. And when you keep putting in people like that to get back to normal, the masses get tired again, and then they gravitate towards a less bombastic fascist. J.D. Vance. Name yours. So I think we've got to do something different. I personally, 2028 is far out, and that's not my focus right now. But I'm not going to ignore Democrats, and I'm not going to rehabilitate corporate Democrats. I'm not. You think Cory Booker did a 25-hour filibuster because he just suddenly saw Jesus? Or do you think he might have ambitions in a few years? Ashley, your final thoughts.
Yeah, I think you made a lot of really good points. I agree with all of that. I similarly don't think that we are helping anyone by pretending it's just Republicans. We didn't get here just with Republicans. Sure, they're beyond reproach. They're fascists. The reason I think it is important to criticize the Democrats is because there is still the tiniest glimmer of hope that they can deliver on even the crumbs. The crumbs that they keep promising us, there is that like feeling that maybe they will, deliver on something like that for working people. I'm sure that's not true because again, like we've said, their constituency isn't working people. It's just not. It's themselves, it's their donors, the consultants, all of those people. I think that failing to criticize them in this moment lets them off the hook for their part in getting us to here. We have Trump because of 40 plus years of economic policy that has hollowed out the middle class. Like the middle class is extinct, right? We don't even have that anymore. And certainly, the temp jobs that are going to come in the wake of these layoffs or, whatever crappy jobs survive these layoffs, that is not going to bring back the middle class. It's barely even sustaining the working class. So that is not a thing. But again, like we didn't get here with just Republican policy alone. Democrats helped along the way. They enabled everything that Republicans have done. They have been equal partners in everything that the Republicans have done. So I don't know. I think the idea that we should just let them off the hook or just say, it's not the moment right now. Like people have commented, it's not the moment, we are in dark times. Democracy is dying in darkness, whatever. That doesn't ultimately help us to get out of this spot. And like you said, if we just, continue criticizing the Republicans to the exclusion of the Democrats, then what happens? We just elect another, we elect Kamala Harris maybe next time.
And you know what? I don't personally, if Cory Booker went up there and did a 25-hour speech and he proposed enough's enough, Medicare for all. If Cory Booker went up there and he proposed universal health care, free public college, $10 trillion in investment in clean and renewable, which I think we need more than that, but let's start at $10 trillion, paid family leave, some form of UBI, some penalties to companies for offshoring, even 3 of those things. And he actually put his money where his mouth is and put like, I am pledging here now. I mean, you can't get in any of the, you can't make them sign in blood. And obviously politicians backtrack. But if Democrats who have let us down before would get on the right side of it now, I would say to some of them, all right, let's not make perfect be the enemy of the good. Or, yeah, I think that's the saying. And let's embrace it. I'm not going to just disregard their record, but if they're proposing those things now and saying these are, Tim Walz, for example, I don't think he tried to get universal health care as governor, but he recently did an interview, governor with Minnesota, who was Kamala Harris's vice presidential candidate. He said, yeah, no, if we get power back, we can't be futzing around with Obamacare. The people are going to want universal health care. Better late than never. I'll take it.
Sure.
But that's not what they're saying. The Democrats right now are basically using the James Carville strategy, which is say nothing. Other than Bernie and a few others, I will give Booker credit for the 25-hour filibuster, but actions speak louder than words. There's no policy proposals from any of them. None of them are offering, hey, Trump's going to cut your Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Elon's cutting all these services. We're going to both fight against this, but here's what we're going to do if you give us power. Here's the policies we're going to do, because they don't have policies. Their donors don't allow them to actually propose bold policies. That's why we live in the United Corporations of America. So I digress. I'm way over, and I got to go take care of my kid. So thanks, everybody, for watching. Let me Ashley, real quick, your turn. Tell the people why they should support Status Coup as a paying member, statuscoup.com/join, to get you on the road.
Yes, I really, really want to go out on the road and be able to talk to people and kind of see, go on a recession tour, let's say. So if you're able to right now, please do become a paying member of Status Coup so that I can go out on the road. John can come with me and we can go talk to some working people who are struggling in the wake of tariffs and Doge and the Trump administration in general.
Absolutely. Real quick, thank you, Tyler, Status Coup member for 20 months. Thanks as always, Tyler says. Thank you. Noel, $2 CAD. I don't know what CAD means. Is that Canadian dollars? Okay. $2. NYPD attacks pro-Palestine protesters constantly. Yes, Ashley is now a very close observer to that. She was on Katie Halper's show last night, so she's already climbing up the ranks here, talking about her reporting. Kimmy's $3.99. Pear character exaggeratedly stretching his arm forward to offer a cup of coffee. Okay. Zaina, we'll have another video from Zaina coming up, I think, tomorrow. Ashley and John, thank you for covering the protests. Thank you, Zaina. We got to also talk eventually about the devastation of these recent storms in Kentucky in the Midwest, which Zaina is experiencing out there in Kentucky. The great humorist, Ashley, it's pretty scary learning what Jordan knows about this country, isn't it? And what he's found happening to the people. I'll tell you a very quick story because my wife is pissed at me and wants me to come take care of the child. Lewis, who was reporting for us in East Palestine the first couple trips, he's now moved to Germany with his partner. He always said to me, I don't know if I'll ever be able to get to your level, Jordan. Like, I'm pissed, but I'm not like, I don't know if I have it what you have. So he calls me one day from East Palestine, and he just, whatever he saw for the day, that was just misery and corruption. And he's like, okay, I get it. I get why you're so pissed. I'm telling you, there's something about going on the ground. You could think you know how corrupt the country is, but until you go on the ground and you see it up close and smell it and meet the people and the victims, it's a whole nother awakening. Nikki, $4.99. Vote shaming is not productive, and I love that you do not participate in it. Feel it, but don't say it. Welcome, Ashley. Yeah, I feel like certain people have like this moral thing where they have to, I told you so, but like people are saying, oh, Jordan, you voted for Biden. Anytime I criticize Biden, but you voted for him. Okay, so you can't criticize someone you voted for? Like, I don't really understand that in the left. It's become a very toxic thing. Humorist, $10. We have all shamed our grandparents and great-grandparents who fought 2 world wars to stop what's going on in this country right now. Got my young brothers and sisters. It's a shame. I think you put it very well. And Denise, $5. I'm really tired of people thinking a duopoly could ever be a healthy democracy. It's a shell game for the filthy rich. Yes. And that's why here, I don't know any channel in the independent space that has interviewed as many third-party candidates as we have. Interviewed Jill Stein, Cornel West, Matthew Ho. I've interviewed other candidates running for independent. And I get it on all levels. I get people criticizing me for interviewing independents and giving Jill Stein a platform and Cornel West a platform because you're helping Trump. I got people bitching at me that we're airing Bernie's fight oligarchy rallies because he's a sellout. Yes, let's ignore 30,000 people going out to rallies in an off election year. Like, our job is to cover it all. You choose who you think is good, bad, or otherwise. Welcome, new Status Coup members, Kendra, Christian. Thank you. $11 donation from Joseph. Thank you. That's also, if you're already a paying member and have just a little bit more, totally fine if you don't. You could always donate to help fund our reporting, statuscoup.com/donate. Constance donated $25. I'm a total subscriber. Thank you for your work. Thank you. All right. I'm way over. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Be on the lookout for more videos from Ashley. We'll have a couple new things tomorrow, and we'll be back at it tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.